Hello my friends! Today we're going to start a color along in Ivy and the Inky butterfly. I've often told you about the talented colorist Olivier Odorant in my videos. Recently she offered me to do a body coloring in Ivy and the Inky butterfly. I was immediately super enthusiastic and I felt very honored, as you can imagine. Obviously I said yes. We chose that page in Ivy and the Inky butterfly. It's the moon page. I can't wait to see what color she will bring on the page. Good news! Johanna BASFORD offers this page in free download, link in the info box. I decided to change a little the perspective of the page. As you can see, I use a map of the world as a desk pad. It's because I want to make with this moon planet Earth. We will reproduce the planet Earth by drawing continents here. And here we will draw the space. To reproduce the planet Earth, I printed a planisphere that I found on internet. And I'm going to draw the continent on the Earth using tracing paper. I will show you how to trace the continents using tracing paper, and we'll add a galaxy sky here around, as well as a moon to put the Earth in perspective. Let's start immediately by using tracing paper. As you can see, tracing paper is quite transparent, so you can see the drawing behind, and you can trace it easily. If you don't have tracing paper, it's not a problem. You can use a printer paper and use the light of the day through a window to trace the continents from your planisphere. Let's begin with tracing paper. You can find it easily on Amazon. I bought mine in an art supplies shop, but you can find it easily on Amazon. I'll give you a link. So, I put my sheet of tracing paper above the drawing that I want to trace. And for safety, I add a small piece of sticky tape, like that. So my tracing paper won't move when I'll move my hand when I'll be drawing the continents. I'm going to draw slightly the edge of the Earth to know where I should place my tracing paper after on the page of my coloring book. And then I'm drawing the edges of the continents simply by copying what is below. No need to be hyper precise. We are not here to give a geography lesson, but only to show that it's the Earth that we have represented. The person looking at the drawing must realize immediately at the first glance that the continents of the Earth have been drawn. For the part here above, we don't have to be that precise because they are hidden under the flowers. And we don't forget the Great Lakes of America. Here we are. We have the shape of the continents on the tracing paper. So the principle of tracing paper is that you apply it on your white sheet like that, and you draw with your pencil above. It will transfer the drawing. Obviously here we can't do like that, because if I transfer the drawing this way on my coloring book, the earth will be upside down. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy the lines with a mechanical pencil. I used this one. Before it was called Set de Comté. Now it's called Bigmatic. What is important is that the lead is quite greasy. But if you don't have this mechanical pencil, no problem, you can use whatever pencil as you want. I've finished copying, so I have my earth on both sides. So now we can put it in my ivy and the inky butterfly. Remember to put a page between your page and the next page to prevent any transfer of ink. So I take my tracing paper, I put it like that on the book. I will move it a little bit because I want to see friends. Here it's okay. So you take a pencil. It must not be too sharpened, otherwise you are going to make traces on your sheet. It's quite difficult to find it in my home, a pencil which is not well sharpened. So I'm going to draw above the lines that I traced on the tracing paper, so it will transfer on my page of ivy in the inky butterfly. Be careful, don't move the tracing paper before you have checked that all the lines are correctly transferred on your coloring page. Here I need to know the shape of the continents, so I can color in green or in blue between the flowers. Now I check if it's correctly transferred, if I see well all the continents. If there is one that we don't see, you simply put your tracing paper back and you go back again with your pencil to make a better line. Here it's perfect, the line is better. Here it's the same, we don't see the lines very well, so I'm going to add a little bit more of drawing above my tracing paper. Here it's much better. Now I take a Staedtler pigment liner, a very thin lead, size 0.1. I want my continents be very thin, so we almost won't see the black lines. So you make irregular lines, no straight lines. The edges of a country are never straight. If you don't respect the precise geography, I don't think anyone will notice. But if you make two straight lines, everybody will see it's not natural. Our planet Earth is finished. The next step is to make a space background here. And for that, I'm going to use Derwent Inktense. As I'm going to use Derwent Inktense, I'll use drawing gum so that I can paint without having to pay attention to the small shapes of my flowers. I use a PBO liquid drawing gum. And I use an old brush that I don't use anymore because the drawing gum ruins your brushes. So I took an old water brush that I don't use anymore and a smaller brush for the thinner areas. It's very easy. You apply the drawing gum where you don't want to color the space. The drawing gum is slightly blue, so it's very convenient because it allows you to see where you have already put it. And now I use my finest brush to make the leaves protruding from planet Earth. So even if you use old brushes, remember to rinse them immediately to remove as much drawing gum as you can, so you can reuse them the next time. You wait until your drawing gum is very dry. So when you pass your finger on it, there is no gum that sticks on your finger. That means that it's dry. For the space, I'm going to use these three colors in Derwent Inktense. We're not going to do something too complicated because I want the attention remain focused on my planet Earth. So we are not going to make a galaxy sky with purple, pinks, things like that. No, I want to stay really simple and homogeneous. The ideal is to have a pencil not too well sharpened. We start with, obviously, if I get the wrong pencil, it's not okay. I applied black instead of light blue. Okay, I use my electric eraser so we won't see the pencil lines. Here, I check that I have the right pencil, white blue, it's okay. And I draw a circle around the earth, without pressing too much. I'm going to intensify my color afterwards. It's a little bit the drawback of Derwent Inktense, it's that the color only appears on the tip of the pencil. And it's not really easy to distinguish them from each other. It has often happened to me that I take the wrong pencil. And it's only after I had applied the pigments on my page that I realized that I had taken the wrong pencil. Don't draw with your pencil on the drawing gum, because the drawing gum is made to resist to water, but not to pencil lines. So if you apply your pencil on the drawing gum, you risk to remove it, and then you lose the protective effect that we choose to use by using drawing gum. It's important that we don't see your pencil lines too much. When we'll use water, it will reduce the pencil lines, but we are in a book where the pages are not very thick, so we don't have to put too much water. If you make smooth line with your pencil, you avoid a few layers of water and it will protect your page. It's better if you use a pencil that is not well sharpened. And then you use the flat side of your lead, so you make lines without we see too much the pencil strokes. Here we have made a halo of light with bright blue around our planet Earth, and now I'm going to add bright blue in a more diluted way, a little around. So it will mix with the second blue that I'm going to use, which is the deep blue. In this way there will be a nice transition, a nice gradient between my two blues. I didn't see there was a small butterfly here. It's nice to make it fly into the space. So I remove the pigments with my electric eraser and I add a little bit of drawing gum to protect it. I make a little circle around the butterfly like this. We're going to see it better if it's surrounded by a halo of light. Then I take my second blue, the deep blue, and I apply it on all my page. I go back inside my bright blue area, but with a very light pressure, so the pigments can mix very well. And that way you'll make a soft transition. Now I'm finished with the transition area, so I'm going to apply deep blue with hard pressure to make the sky. Hello, my little Plume. How are you, my kitty? Are you coming to color with us? Oh, yes, obviously, you're coming to color with us. Plume comes often to participate in my colorings, or she decides that I need a break. Here my fingers become a little blue because of the blue pigments of Derwent Inktense. So to protect my page, I use a white sheet of paper so I can let my hand down on it and it will protect my coloring. Here I'm at the end of what I can do without sharpening my pencil. So I sharpen it a little, but not too much. Is it okay for you, Plume? Is it well sharpened? Yes, it's well sharpened. Hey, you can watch the small paper, Plume. You watch that it doesn't move, okay? Now I've finished the page, so I go back with my deep blue to make some areas more smooth and to add some pigments. This is still the deep blue. I try that the paper remain visible, but it's not always obvious when we color larger areas like that. Plume is very interested. She looks at everything that I do very carefully. In my opinion, one day she'll take my pencils and start coloring herself in my books. Now I'm going to use the black. I apply it over the deep blue because I don't want the page to be completely black. I want it to be blue, but a very deep blue. Do you want to color with me, Plume? Yes? You're so cute. I don't apply black on the side because there is less space to do it and I want to keep a spherical shape. So I add black in the corners and I make a round shape. Yes, you're right, Plume. We no longer see my little paper. Thank you. No, no, give it back to me. Here. We leave it here. Okay? And you, my friends, do you have cats? And if you have cats, do you have cats like mine, who meddle with everything you do, who comes to lie on your coloring books, sleeping with you at night, playing with your pencils. You can tell me in the comments, it interests me. I've already noticed on Instagram that other colorists have often cats lying on their coloring pages. Now we are going to apply water. There are several techniques to apply water. The technique that I use the most is the water brush. But here it's a very large area, so if I use the water brush, it's not good. It will make lines where the water is going to dry. As Derwent Inktense are made with ink, when you have a line, you can't erase it anymore. So you'll keep this line on your coloring page and it won't be pretty. So I'm going to show you my test page, so you will know what I mean. Here I use a water brush. You can see a lot of lines where the water dried. It's not really pretty. Okay, I spoil a little bit because you already see the small moon that I made here as a test. And here is my second test page. You can immediately see the difference. Here I didn't use the water brush. The sky is very much more homogeneous. To get this homogeneous surface, I used a flat acrylic paint brush. If I had had a bigger one, it would have been even better, but it was the bigger that I had. I took it in this package of acrylic paint brushes that I bought at Action Shop at a very cheap price. And I use a small water pot from Action. The advantage is that if we overturn the pot, the water stays inside and it won't bleed on your coloring page. But when you use a water brush on a small bucket of water like that, is that you erase the pigments on your brush. That's why I'm going to use this. It's a small palette where I'm going to put a few drops of water. So when I'm going to take water, it won't rinse the pigments on my brush. I prepare a small paper towel to take the excess of water if I have some. I wet my brush and I'm going to pass over the pigments by going back and forth. If I need water, I take here in my palette rather than in my bucket to avoid diluting the pigment on my brush. So the junction will be less visible. And I continue my sky by bringing a little bit back from the dark color to the light color and taking water when it's necessary. I try to work quickly to avoid lines of demarcation between two areas. In that way, I won't have to put several layers of water, which is better for the paper. As you can see, my little drop of water has taken a really dark shade. It allows me to take up water without creating a lighter area on my drawing. I add some more water for my bottom area. I rinse my brush on it. It will stay a little bit blue. It's perfect to begin the second area. I continue my work trying to make it very homogeneous, or in any case as homogeneous as possible. Each time I apply water on my dark area, I go back in with the dark a little bit on the light area, so I make a good transition. Here we are! We've applied only one layer of water, and as you can see, it didn't pierce through the page. I'm going to change the protective sheet to prevent the ink going on the back of my sheet. There are light irregularities, but it's no problem. We are going to correct it with soft pastel. But for that, we have to wait until the page is completely dry. I'm going to leave the drawing gum to protect the patterns from my soft pastels. And I'll be back in 1 hour when my page will be completely dry. I'm back. The page is now completely dry. I remove cat hairs that are on my page. You know what? When I came back, I found Paddy, Plume's brother, lying completely on my page. He was checking that it was completely dry. I add a new page behind my page. It's a page size A3, so it will protect my book from soft pastels. So I'm going to use Faber-Castell Soft Pastels, the number 4 here, which is ultramarine in Faber-Castell. You can see it in the small booklet here. And then maybe I'll use some number 3, and at the end some black on the edges. Before applying the pastel, I'm going to draw a moon. So for that, I'm going to use a ruler with shape of circles, and I'm going to draw a circle with a white gel pen. Now I take a white Posca, a bigger one, it's size 3M, and I'm going to let the paint run on my moon. You can see sometimes you have too much paint when you use Posca, and that's precisely what I want. I apply too much paint and then I use it to make my moon. And I fill the moon with the paint. If you don't have white Posca, no problem, you can use white acrylic instead. If your paint is not regular, it's not a problem, because precisely it will make the moon realistic. But you must pay attention to the shape. The shape must stay very much rounded. As the surface of the moon is irregular, I'm going to add irregularities with my paper towel like that. I make a quarter. If it's too big, I go over with the white Posca. And I make few circles so my quarters has a round shape. I'm going to add a little one here. And another here above. And there you are. You have in 3 minutes a very natural moon by simply adding white Posca. Now I come back with my soft pastels. Wait until your moon is dry before adding your soft pastels. So you take a cotton pad that you fold in half. You take the blue you want. Here I'm using the number 4. I numbered the pastels in my box, so it's easy for me to recognize them. And so with the blue, you just come to equalize your sky. It's very simple. With this technique, you take advantage of the slightly rough surface of your paper. This rough surface is due to Derwent Inktense. It makes a rough surface that you wouldn't have if you use Prismacolor pencils, for example. And you take advantage of this grip on the surface to add soft pastel. It will completely homogenize your background, which is made with Derwent Inktense. Now I take a darker blue, it's the number 3 in my Faber-Castell box. Its name is Inky Blue, and I darken my blue by starting from the outside. And so on all over your sheet. At the end, you take the black and you apply it where you have already applied blue, and you add it in the corners. You can lightly blend your black into the blue to give more depth. Be careful not to apply black on the moon. If your page buckles, don't worry. Just leave it overnight under a stack of comics. And then your page will be as flat as before. It's an homemade press. And I do the same below. Where I want the sky to be darker, I add black. I am careful that the sheet under doesn't bring pigments on the back of my page. I developed this technique of applying pastel above Derwent Inktense. One day I followed a tutorial by Olivier Odorant. She used watercolors and I didn't have watercolors, so I used Derwent Inktense instead. And I had a lot of pencil strokes, dry pencil strokes, on my sheet. I thought, oh my god, I've ruined my coloring. And to try to save the page, I tried to put pastel on top of my ruined page. And in fact, it worked very well. So now, it's a technique that I'm using very often to soften the pencil strokes made with Derwent Inktense. I use soft pastel to homogenize Derwent Inktense. And we have a much more intense covering than if I had only applied soft pastel. Often it's when you do something stupid that you discover new things. When you try to cover something ugly on your page, you discover a new technique. So now I take my blue from the beginning, the number 4, ultramarine, and I come to blend the black with the blue. The idea is that you have to have a nice gradient. There must not be a strong demarcation line between the black and the blue. Then I take the number 3, the Inky Blue, which is a little bit darker. It works better to hide the demarcation between the black and the rest of the space area. I always use a sheet to protect my coloring page, because you can see there are blue stains on my finger, so to avoid to make stains on my coloring page, I use a white sheet to protect my page. Here, I wanted a midnight blue, a very dark blue, and that's what I got. I'm very happy with the result. Now I'm going to show you a little trick to remove the drawing gum without making blue stain on your page. You see, there are blue soft pastel, of course, on my drawing gum. So to avoid to apply it on the white space of your sheet, you use a cellophane sheet. You put your finger inside the cellophane sheet and you use it to remove the drawing gum. Regularly, you change the place where you put your finger to be sure to always remove your drawing gum with a clean part. You remove it gently to be sure not to tear off the paper. But until now, with this cellophane technique, I have never had a problem with torn off paper in any book. Now we finished with the background, well, almost finished, because of course I'm going to add stars at the end, but I prefer to do that when it's completely finished. And in the next part of this video, we are going to color the inner part of planet Earth, the continents. Thank you very much for coloring this page with me, and I'm going to see you soon for the second part. Happy colorings, my friends!